basically a fair warning is that I had done baseball, whatever. So I'm doing football right now, and then of course hockey and basketball will come soon enough. But the fact of the matter is that you think you know the great what ifs for franchises, but would get pleasantly surprised that it's not what it seems it is. Now, one of my major rules to doing a what if is you cannot have been in the final and lost. So basically, every, every team that lost a World Series, lost the Super Bowl, lost the NHL Stanley Cup, or lost in the NBA Finals cannot be eligible. So basically, I just want teams to make playoff runs and all that. That they failed to make the finals and then they make the finals or make a playoff run. One such example, of course, is the Atlanta Falcons. So that everyone knows about. Okay, what if the 2016 Atlanta Falcons actually got off their butts and actually won the game after being up 28-3? Well, unfortunately, that team does not get a mention because the rule is they made the finals. So thus, I had to change it up. But don't worry, there's another Atlanta team that failed to make the finals that should have made the finals. So anyway, let's talk about the 2012 Atlanta Falcons. So get ready. I said, are you ready? Are you ready for some Cutter What If NFL football? A weekend invasion! Yeah, it's Cutter talking to you live. We got the hits and the misses. So come join me for all the fun. All the rowdy fans come in. It's the weekend, y'all. Are you ready? Yeah, let's do this, baby. Yes. But before that, we've got to talk about the Atlanta Falcons as a franchise. So the Atlanta Falcons were born in 1965 in the NFL, bringing NFL football to the Deep South and all that. Not to Texas, but the Deep South, like in the Georgia, Louisiana area. Of course, New Orleans would get their team a year later, but Atlanta got their team. Named the Falcons. They had a cool live bird mascot, but it fled the stadium and never came back. So the Atlanta Falcons were known for having Tommy Nobis be their first ever draft pick, and he was a very good linebacker. In fact, one of the greatest Falcons of all time, and this is like 6 decades on. Atlanta was not known for their offense. Sometimes they did well. Steve Barkowski was good at quarterback. William Andrews was good at running back. I can't really tell you a good Atlanta wide receiver. Oh, I guess Wallace Francis, but the fact of the matter is that their defense looked good. Fulton Coy Kendall was one of the best ones for Atlanta. They did have what they call the blitz and grits defense that had the record for a while for, well, it has the record for fewest points given up in a 14 game schedule. But if it's like a 16 game schedule, then their points per game pale in comparison to the 2000 Baltimore Ravens. Atlanta in 1980 had a golden chance to beat Dallas on home turf, take out those Cowboys who seemed to be decaying and all that, with Roger Staubach leaving and Danny White having to be the quarterback. But that didn't work out as Dallas scored a few late touchdowns to beat Atlanta in Atlanta, and Atlanta was trying to do what their state football team, the Bulldogs, did and win a title. But it didn't happen. Atlanta would plunder on and on and on. They just couldn't get anything going. And then they drafted this guy in the second round named Brett Favre. Whatever happened to him? Well, Atlanta got tired of him. Jerry Glanville got tired of him and traded him to Green Bay for the one of a first round draft pick. Atlanta needed a running back. They drafted that running back, and they failed miserably. Nevertheless, Favre would go on to be a Green Bay icon and all that, and then move to the Jets and Vikings. But we don't talk about that. So anyway, Atlanta started to get better. They got to playoff spots in the 90s and all that. They just couldn't get over the super hump. However, in the 98 season, they were the best team in the NFC West and had to go into Minnesota to face the Minnesota Vikings in that famous NFC title game I talked about a few videos back. And that was when the Vikings had a chance to go up by 10. Gary Anderson had never missed an extra point or a field goal that year. And then all of a sudden, he missed wide left. The worst part is the kick was indoors, of all things. gave Atlanta a chance to tie, and then Chris Chandler threw to Terrence Mathis touchdown to tie the game. Minnesota had to give back the ball in overtime, and Atlanta marched down the field. Morton Anderson field goal. It's good. Everyone's like that Vikings team is the best team not to win the Super Bowl. I mean, Atlanta were super underdogs, you may say. In a sense, yes, because Minnesota was a great 15-1 team. But people forget that 98 Falcons team actually won 14 games that year. I think they are the most underrated 14-2 team in NFL history. Because, yeah, they won 14 games. They quietly won 14 games. And they took on the Broncos. Eugene Robinson became a bad man for trying to solicit oral sex from an undercover officer. And the dude won the the Man of the Year award for his charity work. But yeah, Rod Smith burned Robinson deep, and basically that was it. The Broncos won the Super Bowl. Atlanta would have a few good years. Of course, we skipped 2012 because we'll talk about 2012. But in the 2016-17 season, the Falcons were going to win the Super Bowl. They were up 28-3. Everyone knows the ending. I hope you know the ending. My Patriots won the Super Bowl. Truth be told, I actually shut off the game after the first half, thinking, "Well, this is a blowout, going the wrong way. Why watch it?" And then when I went on Facebook to see what was the final score, we're talking about overtime, and I'm like, "Overtime? The Pats are in overtime?" And they had the ball first, and I'm like, "No way, they're going to score first." They did, a touchdown, and I was just stunned. And the Patriots won the Super Bowl. I'm not ashamed to say it. I screwed up. But anyway, Atlanta has had some ups and downs and all that. Kirk Cousins seemed to be the quarterback of the future for Atlanta. They made this big deal for Cousins, and then he got injured. Michael Penix had to take over the team in a sense. So, and Cousins, I think, has left Atlanta because he's like, "I'm not sharing with Penix. Ego trips." Booey. But anyway, let's talk about the 2012 Falcons. So the 2012 Atlanta Falcons, this was their 47th year in the NFL and the fifth under Mike Smith. Atlanta was actually 8-0, which was the franchise record for best start in the year. And then when they beat Detroit in the second last week, they clinched home field advantage throughout the playoffs in the NFC, meaning that all the roads would lead to Atlanta for the NFC title game. Atlanta would be in the NFC title game for the first time since the 2004-05 season. That season, they actually lost to the Eagles. The Eagles had a habit of losing the NFC title game at home 3 straight years, and then they finally did it against Atlanta. They did not really have much of a move and all that. The team traded their first round pick in the 2011 draft for Cleveland's first round pick in 2011, which they picked Julio Jones. So, yeah, they traded the first round pick for the one of Julio Jones. It actually worked. And the team would trade their seventh round pick to Philly for Asante Samuel. So the GM was Thomas Dimitroff, Mike Smith, the head coach. Kerry Meyer, the Canadian, on injured reserve. But anyway, quarterback Matt Ryan with Dominique Davis and Luke McCown backing him up. Jacquizz Rodgers and Michael Bernard Turner, your running backs, your wide receivers of note, Julio Jones and Roddy White. Chase Coffin and Tony Gonzalez. Yes, that Tony Gonzalez at tight end. Offensive line, Justin Blaylock, Tyson Klebo, Lamar Holmes, Peter Kunz, Tom McClure, among others. Jonathan Babineau, John Abraham, Jonathan Massaquoi, Corey Peters. Doing that, linebackers, Mike Peterson and Sean Witherspoon. Chris Hope, Thomas DeCoon, Asante Samuel, and others. And then Matt Bryan, the kicker, Matt Bosher, the punter. Didn't have a good preseason, but they started with 8 straight wins. They beat Kansas City, Denver, San Diego, Carolina, Washington, Oakland, Philly, and Dallas all in order. They lost in New Orleans against their division rivals. They lost in Carolina. So those pesky Panthers. They did lose to Tampa, but they pretty much rested their guys. So, that's how it went. That. Anyway, in the divisional round against the Seahawks, who won their game in Atlanta, Tom Brenneman doing the Fox broadcast and all that, the Falcons looked pretty good. They were up 20-0 at the half. Matt Bryant field goal, Ryan to Tony Gonzalez for a touchdown, Bryant field goal, and then Matt Ryan to Roddy White made it 20-0. Golden Tate got a touchdown catch from Russell Wilson for Seattle, but Jason Snelling got one for Atlanta. And it was basically cruise control, or so they thought. Russell Wilson had a touchdown run, and then Wilson the Miller for a touchdown, making 27-21. And then with 30 seconds left, Seattle ran down the field for a touchdown, making it 28-27. But the Falcons, in 3 plays and 41 yards, got lucky. And on a 49-yard field goal by Matt Bryant, they won the game. And they did it. A lot of people were shocked that Seattle would pull up this comeback. And, it would have been funny if Atlanta had blown a 20-point lead this year. But anyway, in the NFC title game, they were looking good against the Niners. They wanted to win. They knew they had to win. Matt Ryan threw the Julio Jones for a touchdown, and then Matt Bryant kicked the field goal, and then Ryan to Julio made it 17-0. So it looked like Falcons are going to learn their lesson and all that. And then and then when Michael James got a touchdown run, Kaepernick to Vernon Davis for a touchdown, and then Ryan was off. So Atlanta was up 24-14 at the half. But the Falcons forgot to play offense and couldn't score in the second half as Frank Gore got 2 touchdown runs. It was just shocking. And the Falcons did have a 17-point lead, so they did blow a 17-point game lead. They blew a 20-point lead, but still won. But they blew a 17-point lead and didn't recover. Yeah, everyone in the NFC South was below 500 except for Atlanta, who were undefeated against every team not in the NFC South, but they still lost to the Niners. And then the Niners would go on to play the Ravens in that classic Super Bowl. So anyway, what would have happened if the Falcons got to the Super Bowl instead of those pesky Niners? Well, here's the situation. You have the Baltimore Ravens, who were the 2013 AFC champions. As always, if we worry about one conference's stuff, we don't touch the other conference. So the Ravens would make the Super Bowl, despite the Patriots being my team. The rules are rules. The rules are rules. You take care of one conference, you leave the other one alone. Leave Brittany alone. The Falcons would face those pesky 10-6 Ravens, who had to go into Denver and beat them in double overtime. And of course, Jacoby Jones with that great touchdown catch. So anyway, the game happened, and Baltimore, Atlanta. Pardon me. All right. So game time weather report was at the Superdome. Atlanta got the ball first, had to punt. Joe Flacco tossed out to Jacoby Jones, but he gets hit at the line of scrimmage and loses the ball. Atlanta picks up the ball. And then, unfortunately, Turner fumbles the ball at the Baltimore 21. Justin Tucker gets a 47-yard field goal to make it 3-0. And that's all for the first quarter. Second quarter actually was bland. But William Moore picked off Flacco deep in Atlanta territory. Justin Tucker goes for a 48-yard field goal and hit the Buffalo wide right. So nothing much happens. The third quarter is when things got to be broken. As the Ravens got the ball first and used a 7-play, 73-yard drive as Antonio Pierce got the touchdown to make it 10-0 for the Ravens. After Atlanta had to punt back to them, Ray Rice 38-yard sweep left. Of course, we all know about his off-the-field antics. Ravens were up 17-0, so it looked like the Ravens were going to win the Super Bowl. In the fourth quarter, Atlanta scores the touchdown on a 10-play, 82-yard drive as Tony Gonzalez got the touchdown to make it 17-7. Baltimore then had to punt. Atlanta, with 4 minutes left, got a touchdown as Ryan hit Jaquette in the end zone to make it 17-14. Baltimore gets the ball at their 31. Fonte Leach loses the handle. The Falcons get the ball at their 27 after a few key plays by the Ravens. And then Matt Bryant goes for the field goal to tie the game, 47 yards, wide left. The Ravens just iced the game, and the Ravens win the Super Bowl. It was close, though. The Ravens almost did what the Falcons did in the NFC title game in real life, blow a 17-point lead. Ray Rice was named player of the game, asshole. Anyway, Ravens were 4 for 10 on efficiency. Falcons 8 for 17. Rushing yards 261 to 118. Yeah, they ran. And Rice ran for 144 and a touchdown. Bernard Pierce. I call him Antonio Pierce, sorry. Flacco 14 for 28, 184 and a pick. Ryan 19 for 28, 244, 2 TDs. Of course, William Moore was the guy. Bryant missed from 47, Tucker missed from 48. So the Falcons would have lost the Super Bowl on a wide left. But yeah, the Ravens were just as good as I thought they were. And I let them off the hook, really. Anyhow, I'm Jeff Diamond to do